if I ever own a company, I think my interview would be to filter out people. My interview process would be, can you have conversations, honest conversations, either side about race without getting offended and getting all hot and bothered and cussing and going crazy, calling people names and acting childish. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sports in the Real Podcast. My name is Mike Philman. Appreciate you joining me for another great episode. Don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, whatever it is that you do. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. I truly appreciate the love so far on social media and elsewhere. And I want to continue to grow this thing. So I appreciate it. Many more great episodes ahead. So I hope you stick with me as I continue to figure out my way through this thing. All right. So that's it for intros. So I figured out that the NBA doesn't really care about me. Right? And when I say me, I mean people like me. People my age group, the old heads. Right? We've kind of phased out of what the NBA would call their target market, right? People over 40, maybe even over 35. We watched the Jordan era, the 90s. We watched the Kobe era. We pretty much watched Bron grow up, right? From 16-year-old to 20-year veteran, having kids, and people's kids who we watch play are playing in the NBA now, legacy kids. But we've kind of phased out of who the NBA will target with their marketing, right? So all the changes that are being made now are really for the younger fans and to bring in a new audience or to keep a certain other demographic happy and excited about what the league is, right? So you can't have no more 76ers or Indiana Pacers battles, right? And Detroit Pistons where the score is like 75-72 in the fourth quarter. You can't have those anymore. And it's physical basketball because the segment that you're trying to bring in is not going to be attracted to that, right? You got kids nowadays, they're on social media at the game or while watching the game. They're halfway focused, even if that. So you got to get their attention with high-scoring games, really no defense, a lot of threes, high scoring, right? Dunks, highlights, YouTube clips. That's how you keep the majority of the new target audience that the NBA is trying to get to. That's how you get them and keep them engaged. You're trying to grow globally, right? People who aren't used to basketball globally, they may not be as attracted to 70-70 scores. Let's go to overtime, early 90s. They're not going to be excited about those. So you got to have run and jump basketball, step back threes all day. So no defense, highlights, YouTube clips, right? Stats. Stats bring in a whole new audience, right? People who generally aren't attracted to sports in that way. They don't understand the nuances of sports and basketball and watching how players move and the cuts and backdoor and picks and all that stuff, right? But they could understand the stats, the PER, right? The whatever percent, right? Advanced analytics. That stuff has ended up pretty much taking over all sports, not just basketball. So that brings in a whole new audience. People my age group, for the most part, who watch basketball growing up, yeah, we cared about the numbers to a sense, but we trusted our eyes more, right? So we saw certain players do things that the numbers don't tell the whole story. So we phased out, right? So we're not the target audience for the NBA. They're not marketing to us anymore. They know we're going to watch anyway because we're basketball lovers, but that's not who they're marketing for. The environment, everything about the game today is not for us. They're for a younger crowd. And that makes sense from a business perspective because for them to continue to grow, they have to continue to bring in younger people who are then going to bring in their kids and so on and so forth, right? So I'm not going to bag on them for doing that. rings, the ring conversation. So the destination now, rings, is more important than the journey. So sports media has become stats, ring count, legacy. In the middle of somebody's career, you're talking about their legacy. Like, what the hell is that? Like, let them play 12 years first. Like, you're 4 years in on my legacy on the line. How does that happen? So the rings conversation, that's the destination, not the journey, right? How does a team manage 82 games to get to the playoffs, to get to the finals, right? The process of overcoming is almost discounted because all we talk about now is Jordan has 6 rings. And unless somebody else is going to get 6 rings and go 6 for 6, then it doesn't matter. So the young players have kind of been affected by that because now they're like, well, I guess it doesn't matter what I do. And I've mentioned this before in previous episodes. And the drama. So now the offseason drama, who's trading, who's getting traded, who's requesting a trade, who's creating a super team, that stuff has replaced real basketball. Just wanting to watch the game. Right? It's like a soap opera now. That stuff is more important than the actual basketball games. And that draws in more viewers. I get it. It's money. So really who the NBA cares for now the most is, I would say, corporate sponsors, rich season ticket holders, right? Guys who are sitting on the floor, and growing the game globally, right? Youngsters, people who aren't even, in the US, but who start picking up on basketball because basketball is everywhere now. But again, they don't want to watch boring, slow-paced games. And stat guys, right? So I would put those three together in like one group, growing the game globally. Youngsters, stat guys, right? People who aren't necessarily growing up playing basketball on a playground. So corporate sponsors, rich people, and growing the game to a younger audience or a different audience. And all that's fine and good, right? I guess. As much as people like me and my age group say, hey, we're not watching anymore, we still watch. Maybe not as closely as we used to, but we still watch. I still watch because I love basketball, like I've said before. But what I do hate about the current game is load management. Supposedly it started with the Spurs, during Tim Duncan's last couple years and Pop resting guys. But load management has become a big problem in the NBA. And now you don't know when the stars are going to play and when they're not. Whether they're injured or not, it doesn't matter. They're load managing. And I remember, as a Bulls fan, I remember when Derrick Rose got hurt. He tore his ACL, missed the rest of that playoffs. And then that next year, everyone was expecting him to come back around like towards the end of the season, right before the playoffs, and throughout the playoffs he would warm up with the team, but he never went, right? He never played. And he said like he never felt like he was ready, his knees felt weird, whatever. And he caught a lot of heat for that. A lot of heat. And it turns out Derrick was kind of right? His body was breaking down. I guess he kind of felt it. His knees were breaking down. But it's funny how much heat Derrick caught for that. But nowadays, cats are expected to load manage and to take time off and to not rush back from injuries. Not push through. Right? It's an expectation that even if you're healthy, you take some time off so you won't get hurt, so you can be ready for the playoffs and make a long playoff run. Even though a lot of these guys who do that end up making playoff runs. And from what I've read, I don't know what you've seen and read, right? There's no real correlation that's been proven between load management and injuries or not getting injured. Obviously, if you play too much, right, you run the risk of getting injured. But that's, I think, a separate thing than just regular load managing, okay? Now, if you're going to play a guy Tom Thibodeau style 48 minutes every game, then yeah, maybe you run the risk of being worn out. But most coaches ain't like that. So I would suspect that most NBA players aren't in a position where they're going to just get hurt for no reason. Injuries happen randomly anyway, right? So as a Bulls fan, I saw Derek get heat for that, a lot of heat for that from the media, but the same media is now accepting that Kawhi don't play. Hey, him and PG are getting ready for the playoffs. Let them rest. What? But also as a Bulls fan, I watched Michael Jordan play 82 games, like 9, 10 seasons or whatever it is. And we can't say, well, the players now have so much stress on their bodies, they're running a lot, whatever, man. I saw Michael Jordan exert himself all the time and trying to play through everything because he knew the fans were watching. He knew, right? He said it himself. Kobe has said this. Like, you don't know who's watching you for the first time or their only time, right? And somebody paid a ticket to come watch you play. So Jordan breaks his foot. This is his second year, right? And if you watch The Last Dance, you saw this. And then ownership is like, well, and the doctors are like, well, we're not going to win a championship anyway. Let your foot heal, come back the next season, and coming back too early, you can re-aggravate it, make it a long-term thing, yada, yada, yada. And Jordan ends up playing. He's like, whatever, I'm going to play. And he plays in the playoffs. So I'm not going to be one to expect people to jeopardize millions of dollars to come back too soon from an injury. But what I would expect is that if you're not hurt, to play basketball. To hoop, right? Those of us, and I've said this before, those of us in regular everyday jobs, right? I think we can get a pass, right? It's different because we may not really enjoy what we're doing for a job, for a career, right? We do it because it pays the bills. So as a result, we may not want to go in every day. People call in sick or take PTO, whatever. So as an NBA player, if you're not wanting to play every game, I feel like, do you really love the game? Or do you just like the money? You just happen to be really good at basketball and you're making a lot of money. And to me, if the NBA really cared about injuries and managing injuries the way they should, then they really need to take it back to AAU basketball and travel ball when these cats are playing basketball since the age of 10. Okay? Like 8-year-old dudes, travel ball, totally unnecessary. You have rankings of the top fourth grader in the country, totally unnecessary. Who cares? But parents are paying beaucoup dollars for it, and somebody's making bank off of it, so it's probably never going to go away. It's only going to get bigger. But that's really the source of the injuries, is playing way too many games, way too soon. So let's say from the age of 10 to the age of 19 when, the best guys enter the league, right? So 11-year span, let's say, these guys are playing hundreds and hundreds of games a year for no reason. So of course your body's going to break down, Zion. Right? So people are going to blame Zion's weight and everything like that. Yeah, it's possible his knees may not be meant to hold up under that much torque with his size. But it's also possible that, Zion played a whole lot. I saw the clips on YouTube. These guys played a lot of games. Highlight tapes, mixtapes. So to me, if the NBA wants to fix the issue with, injuries and guys' bodies being fresh, like that's the source. AAU basketball. Travel ball. Like, what's wrong with just playing high school basketball and getting recognized in the newspaper nowadays? Is that illegal? We can't do that no more? So anyway, I don't like load management. And the problem with load management is that nowadays you don't know who's at fault. Some of the players have gone on TV, I think CJ McCollum went on TV and said, hey, it ain't us. It's the trainers and the teams who are telling us the players to take breaks. It's total BS, man. I don't know if I buy that. So some players take breaks and their needs are more important than others. So I'd like to hear the team come out and say, no, that ain't us. Start a real argument, right? Yeah, it ain't us. No, it is, y'all. It ain't us. So or I need all the players to come out and say, yeah, I'm resting because they told me to. Right? Even if they tell you to, you still have the option to say, no, I want to play. You're still the player. You're trying to put on a show for your fans, right? So that raises another question. Do players really care about the fans like that? Or is it more about making money? They say they love their fans, but do they? I don't know, man. I'm speculating. I'm asking questions. And I don't know if there's really a right answer, 100% correct answer, because, yeah, nobody wants to see guys get hurt, but at the same time, we want to see guys play, especially in the bigger matchups. Looks like you're dodging the competition, if you ask me. And nobody wants to be accused of that. So nobody knows who's to blame for load management. That's fine. However, since there's nobody knows who to blame, personally, I like to take personal ownership of when things go wrong. So I'm gonna blame the players, or I'm gonna put the responsibility on the players for this episode until further notice. All right? Talking to the players. What is your responsibility in this? What is your responsibility to the fans? Like I said, who come watch you play. Seems like almost every game somebody's sitting out, there happens to be a fan in the stand who traveled 1,800 miles for the first time. They want to see, Jimmy Butler play. I think Jimmy Butler was the last one I saw a couple weeks ago. Traveled 2,000 miles and to see Jimmy Butler play, and Jimmy Butler didn't play, so they end up taking a picture in the back. I think he had a signed autographed jersey or something like that. All fine and good. But we just want to watch dudes play. And there's many kids and adults who travel, whose sign don't make it, on TV, and they end up leaving disappointed. So what, as a player, what's your responsibility to the fans? Richard Jefferson was on TV a couple of weeks ago talking about how, his dad, which is a sad story, honestly, his dad couldn't afford for both of them to get in the San Antonio Spurs game. Tim Duncan was his favorite player. Or David Robinson, was his favorite player. And he went to the game. His dad dropped him off for him to go to the game, and his dad left to go watch the game at a bar or something like that. Now imagine if David Robinson hadn't played, load managing. So as players, what's your responsibility to the fans? What's your responsibility to your team, to your teammates? I mean, other guys would like to rest too. Is it just, oh well, you're not good enough? Star player privileges, you're not good enough. I don't know, man. We're in this together. The truth be told, that star player is not winning the championship if key role players get hurt either. So, there it is. What's your responsibility, players, to future generations, to those who come after you? So we often hear people say, well, when they're in their acceptance speeches, when they've done something great, right? I stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Oscars and Grammys, like those who came before me, they paved the way. I stand on the shoulders of giants. And the current NBA player stands on the shoulder of giants for sure, right? Current athletes in general. So people like Oscar Robertson, who pretty much helped to create what we now know as free agency in basketball, along with somebody like Kurt Flood in Major League Baseball. So you guys stand on shoulders of giants because now you guys can get paid in free agency. and you're not stuck on a bad team. You can leave and make a whole lot of money when you leave in the open market. So guys like Jim Brown and Kareem and Bill Russell, who, fought for civil rights as professional athletes, like, you guys stand on shoulders of giants. We stand on shoulders of giants. So I feel like the duty would be as an NBA player, your duty would be to be the stepping stone for the next generation, to not make it harder on them, right? To make it easier for them to get the big contracts, to get what they're asking for in negotiations, more bargaining power, right? Because, hey, the guys that came before me did the right thing, so why doubt us, right, and our ability to do the right thing? But here's another question I have. Do NBA players have any responsibility towards NFL players? Do or can NBA players impact NFL player contracts? And this part of the conversation might get uncomfortable for some people, but specifically black players, right? NBA is predominantly black. NFL is predominantly black. Should black NBA players care or feel some type of responsibility about NFL players' contracts? And I know some people get uncomfortable when you start talking about black and white and things like that. Listen, man, if you can't have just regular conversations about that involve race and not think somebody's saying anything about racism or anything like that and getting offended, then first of all, this podcast is probably not for you. Second, you need to grow up. Like, this is a tangent. If I ever own a company, I think my interview would be to filter out people. My interview process would be, can you have conversations, honest conversations, either side, about race without getting offended and getting all hot and bothered and cussing and going crazy, calling people names and acting childish? Because to me, that's a sign that you've grown up mentally, that you're truly an adult if you're able to hold conversations about things that you don't truly understand, may not truly impact you, but you can empathize, or you can make your case and disagree without getting upset and throwing tantrums like people do on social media. Anyway, that's my tangent. So if you're not comfortable talking about hearing conversations about race and not feeling offended, then this may not be the right podcast for you, all right? I'm just telling you straight up. Sports and the real is might touch on those things. Probably will. Certainly will. Some would call it woke conversation. Yeah. So as I'm recording this episode here, Lamar Jackson in the NFL, Baltimore Ravens quarterback, superstar, is in a fight with the Baltimore Ravens organization trying to get a deal, okay? And they couldn't come to a deal today because he wants a guaranteed contract, fully guaranteed contract like Deshaun Watson. So the Baltimore Ravens basically franchise tagged him, but they're allowing him to have conversations with other teams to see if, I forget what the exact name is of the franchise tag that he got. But essentially he can negotiate with other teams, whatever they offer. Baltimore has the opportunity to match that offer, okay? But guys of his status shouldn't have to fight for a guaranteed contract. Matter of fact, I don't think NFL players should have to fight for guaranteed contracts at all. Like, of all people, these dudes put their bodies on the line, their lives on the line. They should never have to ask for a guaranteed contract. That should be a given. But the owners probably feel like, well, if we give them guaranteed contracts, these guys will never come back from injury. So as a black NBA player, should you feel any sort of way about the fact that potentially load managing is impacting the fact that your brothers can't, in other sports and football specifically, can't get guaranteed contracts? So again, this is going to be an uncomfortable conversation. All right, I think somebody has that trademark, uncomfortable conversations. But this might be uncomfortable for some people to hear. And the reason why I feel about this the way I do, and the answer to me is yes, by the way, right? They should. Because again, you stand on the shoulders of giants, those who came before you paved the way for you and others like you. So you owe it to your brothers, the next generation. But to me specifically, the way I feel like that is because those of us in the regular world, right? Black folks in the regular world with regular jobs who are woke, end quote, who are conscientious of our surroundings in our society, regular jobs, everyday life, those who care, right? We know that we must look out for those who come behind us and those around us in the way that we behave on the job. Why? Because we don't want to be the reason, again, those of us who care, some people don't. We don't want to be the reason somebody who comes behind us isn't able to get a good position, a good salary, good job, whatever it is. We don't want to be the reason that prevents somebody from getting that next opportunity. So it's a burden that black folks carry around, right? Because if you look at the environment, if corporate America, management positions, right? The higher you go, and I've been there, I've seen it. I've been in the game for years. It made me an animal. Shout out to Biggie. So when you've been in corporate America for certain years and you've interacted with people at all types of levels, you recognize that the higher you go, there's less black folks, okay? It gets lighter in the room. And there's several factors that go into that. But the higher you go, there's less and less black folks. The opportunities that are available get slimmer. It's only so much space, right? In the boardrooms. And that's not just me making this up, by the way. There's actually stats that back it up. Since I knew you would ask, probably, I have it for you. So McKinsey and Company is a global consulting company, right? Global management consulting company. So if you're not familiar with that, they basically do studies on this type of stuff all the time, and different things, right? Not just on race, just different things on how businesses can succeed or what's holding businesses back, different business cases and use cases, right? So they know how to study businesses and do surveys and research on this stuff. So McKinsey has a study that says that the results came out on diversity that showed overall 14% of the workforce is black, which kind of aligns with total population, right? 14% of the workforce is black. However, as you move up, slimmer pickings. 7% of managers are black. 5% of senior managers are black. And get this is, general knowledge. Fortune 500 companies, so 500 companies, there are 6 black CEOs. That's a little bit over 1% of CEOs are black. So clearly, it's not just me. The higher you go, less opportunities for blacks. And it's not like blacks aren't qualified, which might be the question somebody asked, right? Well, maybe blacks are less qualified. No. A separate study shows that 93% of black executives had advanced degrees versus 53% of white executives. On average, black executives had 1.6 more years worth of experience than their white counterparts. So again, this isn't crying racism or anything like that. This is just letting you know why we, as black people, in everyday jobs, we care about looking out for the next person, not making excuses for the next person, right? So we're not going to overlook people who are underperforming, but we specifically look at people and their performances to find potential diamonds in the rough that others may overlook. At least I do. To give opportunities to others who may not get the opportunity because their resume or whatever it is, right, may not look great compared to somebody else. Because we know it's easy to just filter it out and say, hey, this guy is not as experienced, so make some other excuse. So if we want to spin it back to sports and football, this is the whole Eric Bieniemy conversation. So people make all type of excuses about Eric Bieniemy, well, his past. Other head coaches have been hired with a past, criminal history. Yeah, but he did so much more, but people aren't allowed to change, no? No? Well, he doesn't call plays. Andy Reid called plays, and so no one on Andy Reid's staff has gotten a head coaching job? So Eric Bieniemy struggles to get a head coaching job because XYZ excuses every year, right? Maybe he's not a good interviewer. So what? I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I'm a great interviewer. But as someone who's hiring, you should be able to tell someone, even if they're not a great interviewer, you could tell someone who knows what they're talking about and what they're capable of. You can tell their passion and their willingness to learn and to grow into the role. And that, to me, is more likely a better predictor of success than someone who's great at talking in an interview. Some people are just good talkers. So they'll get the job every interview. They'll get the offer. So, but I don't know if that's an excuse or not for Eric Bieniemy, but that's what social media claims. Maybe he's not a great interviewer. Who knows? When you contrast that to Jeff Saturday, who happens to have a good relationship with the owner, comes off a TV set, coached high school ball, and gets a interim head coaching job. Now he has interim NFL head coaching job on his resume, right? He knows what it feels like. He knows what to do and what not to do the next interview, the next job. So he already has a leg up on Eric Bieniemy, who's been an offensive coordinator for one of the greatest offenses of all time. Yeah, everyone's going to give credit to Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. That's fine. Or Adam Gase. I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, okay? Adam Gase sucked. Adam Gase came in all hyped up, recommended by Peyton Manning. He sucked. So he gets fired and immediately gets a new job with the Jets. After the Jets watch him suck in the division. How does that happen? In their own division. This guy wasn't in the NFC sucking. He was in their own division. You saw his ineptitude, his inability to relate to players. But somehow Adam Gase immediately got another opportunity with the Jets. And of course he folded there too. So black folks, we don't get many of those opportunities like that. Yeah, there are some Mike Tomlins. There are some really rock stars that get opportunities young, right? But even Mike Tomlin sits there and gets crucified every year, right? Because he didn't win the championship. Even though his teams may not be championship caliber. Or other coaches who aren't making the playoffs who aren't having winning seasons every year, those coaches don't get nothing. They don't get criticized. Oh well. So anyway, that's what I wanted to contrast, right, and bring it in sports terms between why as black folks in the workplace we we see things the way we do. It's not propaganda. It's not made up. It's facts, right? I've seen it with my own eyes. I've experienced it, but the numbers back it up in the study. So anyway, back to the topic at hand. That's why I think NFL players should care, or NBA players should care about their NFL brothers, because while you may not be at fault or totally responsible for why NFL players don't have guaranteed salaries, the way you act may, right? So in the workplace, I don't want to do anything that's going to make it harder for those who come behind me or my associates to not get that opportunity. As NBA players, I feel like that should be the same thing, right? I don't want to make it more difficult for these guys to get guaranteed contracts and get great health benefits. During the whole Damar Hamlin situation when he passed out on the field and almost died, social media was going crazy, and then people were saying that, NFL players only get health benefits or whatever post playing career for like 4 years or something like that, which is crazy because these guys have debilitating injuries from playing football, and not all of them are millionaires afterwards. Of course, somebody's gonna say, "Well, that's the risk they take." Yeah, okay. It's okay to feel to empathize with people's situations who make a lot of money. And during that whole firestorm online about the Damar Hamlin situation and the fact that his contracts may not be guaranteed, and health insurance coverage or whatever may not be provided after he's over, this and that, he may not be vested. I remember a tweet from Richard Sherman who was like, it would be nice to make all these recommendations, but these owners, they're not benevolent. These billionaires aren't benevolent. They're not trying to give out their money like that. They're not nice guys trying to take care of the players. They're trying to make more money on top of more money. That wasn't a direct quote, but that's essentially what he said, right? These guys aren't benevolent. They do the bare minimum, and that's it. But if you're an NBA player and you see that and you know that, again, this is just me, you got to be like, yo, I'm going to play. Forget this load management stuff. I'm going to play because my brothers in the NFL who should have guaranteed contracts can't get guaranteed contracts, and these guys are having to play hurt. Now, if you don't care, you're not conscientious, you don't care about, you're not your brother's keeper, as they say, then I guess it's, oh, well, I guess you should have hooped. You should have worked on your jump shot and not hitting dudes. But if you care about other people, to me, and you care about other athletes, other black athletes who are trying to elevate their situation and elevate their families and their communities, and if you claim you're rooting for everybody black, like we see on social media, right? Hey, I'm rooting for everybody black. Well, there's T-shirts that say I'm rooting for everybody black. Saying I'm rooting for everybody black is all nice and good if your actions back up the words. So it's not just liking a post or sharing a post on social media of your friend's new business. That's great. But rooting for everybody black also means your actions line up with the fact that I'm not going to do anything to screw up the opportunity for the next person. So when I'm Denzel Washington and I'm acting, I'm going to do my damnness to do my best so that the next black actor can get that role too. That's not just a black role, a black man's role, right? So you can you could have a black person do any role, not just a black role. So as an NBA player, I'm going to play my butt off unless I'm truly hurt. I'm going to play. I'm not going to load management so that my brothers on the other field, some of whom I grew up with in the same communities, can get guaranteed contracts so that Lamar Jackson is not fighting for a guaranteed contract. So that's my take on it. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't really know how to fix it, okay? I don't have the answers, as you'll realize in this podcast. I like having conversations. I have a lot of questions. And a lot of times I'm not going to have any answers. Maybe some recommendations. So I guess I can make some recommendations for how the NBA can fix load management. All right? I guess my first recommendation is going to be the NBA's got to take out the weird scheduling, I think. Back to backs, 4 games in 5 nights. That stuff can go. All right. Traveling. I don't know how to fix that exactly, but I think there's a way. There's smart people in the NBA office who can fix that stuff, right? There's no reason for 4 games in 5 nights. So the NBA can fix the scheduling. They can also, which is something I would hate to do, because I'm gonna be honest with you. If I were an owner of an NBA team, I would be looking at dudes sideways like, yo, I don't know if we can give you a 4-year, 5-year contract because you may not play 70% of the games, right? And honestly, if I'm an NFL owner, I'm definitely not giving out guaranteed contracts after watching NBA dudes do that. I'm not gonna trust you when these cats are taking days off for no reason. And I'm telling you, man, NFL owners are never gonna admit it. People aren't gonna admit this, but I'm positive, right? It plays in their mind because although the owners, these NFL owners, they're billionaires and they're not great guys wanting to, give out money for no reason, right? So the 0.1 or 1% chance that they would have agreed to guarantee contracts, it's probably gone out the window, man. It's probably gone out the window because they're looking at the NBA players like, yo, we give these guys guaranteed contracts, they're gonna look like the NBA players. Except that the NFL players are actually hurt from having car accidents every week. So anyway, this is a recommendation the NBA can try. I certainly would if I were an owner. I would tie salaries to playtime. I would tie awards, right, to playtime. You got to play X number of games to make the All-Star game. You got to play X number of games to get the max salary. Max salary, max playtime. You got to play X number of games to be, MVP, whatever, right? And we know guys have triggers in their contracts already for MVP seasons and all NBA and all that. So we don't want to get to that, but we might have to. Unless, of course, the league is in on it. Then I guess we're all stuck as fans, right? It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, it's up to the players, right? So there's not much the league can do. They can try to adjust the scheduling, but it is what it is. It's up to the players to step up and be like, okay, we're going to do it for the fans and we're going to do it for our brothers in the other league who can't get guaranteed contracts. So we're going to play ball. We're going to put on a show every night. It's basketball after all. It's not football. It's not hockey. You're not, we're going to play ball. And it may take an alpha to arise, right? So I saw Anthony Edwards' comment. Shout out to Ant-Man about, he's not a fan of that. He's not a fan of load management. He wants dudes to play every game. Yeah, Ant-Man, I agree. He's also not a fan of not matching up with the man, right? If you're a guard and the other the best player on the other team's a guard, you guys should match up. Steph and Dave should be going head to head. Of course, as a coach and strategy, you switch off, you put your best defender on the best offensive player, fine, whatever. But I miss the days of Kobe and T-Mac going at it. LeBron and Melo going at it. I miss those days. Again, I'm not the target demographic. I've aged out of the target market for the NBA, so they don't really care about me, what I think. But anyway, Ant-Man, that was a tangent. But Anthony Edwards is my type of guy. He's my type of hooper. He wants to play basketball and he wants to play against the best. So we're going to need more Anthony Edwardses to step up and make a change. That's who it's going to have to be. NBA players are going to have to step up to the challenge. The league can do what they want. Maybe they'll make the recommendation of tying salaries to playtime. I don't know. I don't want to take money out of people's mouths, out of their pockets. But guys are putting themselves in that position for the league to have to make that conversation. Again, if the league is not in on it. I remember Adam Silver threatening, to fine teams when guys, miss games or were load managing on national TV. I don't know if that's still going or not. But national TV or not, load management sucks because people are paying for league pass. I'm paying for league pass and dudes ain't playing. Kind of defeats the purpose. So we're going to need players, more people like Anthony Edwards to step up and say, hey, man, let's do this thing. Let's play ball. An alpha. Couple alpha dudes. Let's play ball. Regular season. Let's play ball. All-star game. Let's do the dunk contest. Let's put a show. Let's do our all and set up the next generation so that they could be as successful as they can be. Make it easier on them and not set things back. Right? Like I said, the money is not going to decrease. I know that, right? Live sports is always going to have demand, huge dollars, betting, blah, blah, blah. But the landscape might change because of how the current players perform now. So that was my thought for today's episode. Should NBA players care about NFL players and their salaries? My thought is yes. I'll be interested to hear what others have to say. All right, guys. That's the episode for today. Appreciate you hanging out with me once again. If you can, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share this episode, follow along for the journey. Sports and the real Mike Feldman. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time. Peace. I'm going straight to the top.